everybody describes burlesque very differently. To me, I think it's sexy, it's sassy, it's silly. I mean, it's not to be overly alliterative, but I mean, I think that first of all, if it's not sexy, it's not burlesque. But if it's not sassy and kind of silly, it isn't either. I think that people, maybe that's not entirely true. There's a lot of burlesque out there that's just beautiful and elegant. There's so many words, so many great adjectives to describe burlesque. It's over the top, it's lampoonery. I mean, it makes you think, and it should make you laugh, and it should definitely, titillate. I think it's fun. If it isn't fun, it isn't burlesque. Like, it's got to be entertaining, first and foremost.
Burlesque was big. It's making an obvious resurgence now, but it did wane for a number of years, and it was a very popular form of entertainment through the early 20th century. Nowadays, the people go out to clubs and they see 4 to 5 acts in a night, and it's just a girl playing to a soundtrack. But back in the day, they had theaters and circuits and entire touring groups that would go around, and the girls would go around and play with comedians and with bands and play to packed houses. Typically, the acts would intermix between candy butchers and the comedians and the burlesque performers, and then the bands playing, and sometimes they would play movies also in certain theaters, and people would be able to come in and, for a nickel, see a burlesque show.
For me, one of the things is when people are having a really great time, because that translates. There's no substitute for a performer who's really enjoying themselves on stage. But I think, there's some people who do really hilarious narrative routines. I mean, Little Brooklyn in New York comes to mind. She's a genius. She did at the show this year one of the funniest numbers. There are these sort of archetypes in burlesque. There's the balloon dance, the fan dance. There are certain things that people do, and you think it's kind of been done. It's hard to recreate it or to make it your own. And one of these archetypes is the dance of the devil. And it's a really complicated number because it's one person performing with, usually it's a papier-mâché devil head, and one part of her body is the devil and the other part is the angel or the virgin or whatever. And the devil part is undressing the angel part. So you kind of have to, within yourself, separate and be that whole you must pay the rent, I can't pay the rent, that kind of thing, but you're doing it with your whole body. And she did that, but instead of doing it as a devil and a girl, she did it in half a monkey suit as Fay Ray and King Kong. And I mean, she had a miniature Empire State Building with planes flying around it, and the banana, he was forcing her to eat a banana, and it was hilarious. And it was just, but it was also, she was beautiful and elegant, and it was so it was this kind of slapsticky, hilarious narrative that was immediately recognizable on a pop culture level, but also on a historical burlesque, classic context, but very much modern and just, whimsical. So that, I mean, there's so many. I mean, I can't narrow it down.
I think that people look back on things with nostalgia, and I think that because people are looking back on things, with rose-colored glasses, they want to embrace the past and embrace the glamour and sexiness and embody it. And I think that people enjoy seeing it. For one simple fact, because it's different from what we've known. The same way as in probably the year 2030, kids are going to start breakdancing on cardboard boxes again. It'll happen. And it'll become a giant fad, and there'll be clubs where you could go out and see it, and it won't be just an underground thing like it is today.
The name of my class is Kitten DeVille's Burlesque for Beginners.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm teaching them the classic art of burlesque dancing, trying to bring the tease back into dance, and we learn facial expressions, how to walk on stage, teasing type of movements, bump and grind, how to make costumes, how to do stage makeup, where and how to research the music for the show, and just everything basically what you need to know to be able to go from my class to walk into somebody else's burlesque show and say, I'm ready to perform. For a long time, every time somebody talked to me about it, it was either defending what I did or explaining what I did. And as soon as you told them, think of old vaudeville, think of fan dances, things like that, people are like, oh, okay, I get it. It's all about what you don't see than what you do see. It's more about teasing, and it's super innocent. It's a pretty fun illusion, and the crowd is just as many girls as there is boys in the crowd, and it's a great mix. Performing on stage for me is the biggest and best kind of high ever. It's almost an addictive feeling. When I'm out on stage, it's almost like I'm alone, but there's like 1,000 people there at the same time. I just kind of go into this thing where I get really into my song, into the music, and I kind of just let myself go and just interact with the crowd. If it's a big energy crowd, it's just a give and take of that energy. They throw energy to you and I throw them back, and I just kind of lose myself in the music and in the moment and with the crowd. So it kind of varies on different places where I perform, but the high, the energy I get from performing is like the best I've ever felt. Yeah.
I think that it will continue to grow over the next 10 years, and I think that it will become more a part of mainstream lexicon. I think that the reason it will is because of the fact that it is sexy and salacious, but it's not dirty and filthy. And I think that people are getting tired of the overexposed Britney Spears crotch shots, and I think that people want to have something that's a little titillating, but at the same time isn't so graphic. So I do think that the popularity will grow. Where it will grow to, I couldn't really say.
I think it's only going to get better. I don't think it's reached its peak yet where it's going to die out. It's still growing and growing, and it's really great to see.